Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. And Joyce, it's the moment we've been waiting for. We're finally able to talk about the Oscars for real.
For real. Because what, like 2 weeks ago was fake?
Well, like now it's like people have like seen the stuff and like, oh, like we're talking about before. We've made a lot of changes, at least for Best Picture, after the response to some of these movies at Venice, Telluride, and Toronto. The Toronto Film Festival, Joyce, somehow still going on. I still see people tweeting about it. It's been going on for a month, I believe.
I mean, you could just mute it all. So
no, then I don't. I mean, I mute everybody, but then I go searching to see what they're writing about, so I can see. Even though I mute everyone. No, Joyce, this is great. The Oscars. I went to Telluride, so we have not talked about this at all. I wanted to see like what your impressions are of like this season so far, and versus what I can seen. I've only seen, because of the way the festivals have split, I've seen only like a handful of the movies. You haven't seen any of them, I don't believe.
No, I've seen Don't Worry Darling.
Right, of course, we saw Don't Worry Darling.
Obviously, we saw that together.
Best Picture frontrunner. But we have not. You have not seen like I saw at Telluride. I saw like Tar and Women Talking. You haven't seen those yet. But like, what is your take?
And like I prefer that way. Like I like not seeing things when like everyone right now is like descending on all these fests and, like you said, actively tweeting like every 15 minutes about something, because I like not like knowing too much, especially at this point. And like the truth is, like, to predict stuff, you don't actually need to see anything. It like, because it reminds me like when I was a kid, like growing up, I didn't see most of these movies by the time the Oscars rolled around. Like I saw a lot of them afterwards. It didn't stop me from predicting anything.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of this stuff is like based on like narrative, who's putting the movies out, what the general sense is. A lot of times the movies themselves are secondary. My take this year was I don't love the there's a Just, I don't know if you know this, on when people see movies at festivals, they love to come out of the movie and then tweet histrionic comments,
because like usually when you get there, they tell you like the embargo, like there's a social embargo, a review embargo, they tell you the time. So especially if the embargo is like weeks later, this is like super inside baseball, but if you see the movie like 2 weeks in advance, you could schedule a tweet to go up at like 10:15 a.m. when the embargo lifts,
Right. So you could do that, or you come out of it and there's always a festival high, I feel. So I was like, I'm not tweeting about, I think the only movie I tweeted about was my beloved Armageddon Time, Joyce, because Jeremy Strong in the movie says attaché case with his very thick Queen's accent. And it was just, I mean, that is beauty. It was a beautiful moment for me, hearing him say attaché case.
Also, every the festival high, everyone is just hyperbolic, whether it's in praise or just dunking on something that they don't like.
Yes, and we'll talk about that, because I think there's one particular movie, at least, that has now kind of like already dissipated from the conversation, but that I think had the highs and lows after Venice and Telluride. And then, yeah, I mean, like, so I would say take everything you've read so far with a grain of salt. If you're like, I would not, and I think you don't know.
Well, you can just wait to see these things yourself.
Well, you can wait to see these things yourself, or you don't even need to see them, like you said, and just like kind of like wait to see, because obviously the people tweeting about this stuff are not people voting for the Oscars.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they'll give out, if they're part of the 359 Critics Awards.
Right. They could do like, that, but a lot of those then will play catch up
stuff there.
Right. So that's it. So basically, so what is your take so far on what you've been reading of this season?
I love how a lot of expected front runners or favorites, or whatever you want to say, because people have been predicting stuff since the beginning of the year, since January 1st, because it's a new cycle, and a lot of these contenders have not necessarily flopped, but like mixed response. Let's say most of them very mixed, and very few have emerged with just all out raves, like like No Man Land style, or like Power of the Dog style. Like Tar is really the only one.
And
and I like that, because it's not that I want movies to be bad. No, it's far from it. It's just like, I like when like our expectations are shattered. It's like super, like, this had Oscar buzz, because it really opens up the playing field in a way, because now it's like, oh shit, maybe these things are not going to hit at all, or maybe they will. but we don't know. Like maybe it's just gonna be another disconnect, like Green Book style, where like critics hate something, but the industry loves it, you know? So I think it's still exciting because a lot of these movies have either like polarizing responses or just really mixed in general.
And that's been amazing to see, because I think you're exactly right. There's zero consensus. Like last year, so like I was at Telluride last year. Everyone saw Power of the Dog and was like, beautiful movie, great movie. Even people who didn't love it, like me, I did not love it. I was like, oh, it's good. Everyone thought it was good, even it like at the worst. At Telluride this year, for every movie that I saw that I was like, that was actually great, I would come out and talk to somebody and they'd be like, that was terrible. So there, and then for movies that I was like, oh, that was really bad, I would, or I did not get it, someone would say it was great. And I feel like even Tar, like Tar, I think you're right. At Venice, it got rave reviews. I saw it at Telluride. It's a good movie. I really liked it. It reminded me a lot of, like, I mean, obviously Todd Field, like very, very much like a Kubrick disciple, right? Because he was like in Eyes Wide Shut. So it's like that kind of like detached, but it also felt a little like There Will Be Blood, which I guess was also inspired by Stanley Kubrick, because Paul Thomas Anderson loves Stanley Kubrick. And it's good, and she's amazing, and like I thought it was like a really good movie. It's actually much more entertaining than I expected. I don't know what your expectations were for, but it's like,
I mean, that's totally the type of movie that would be up my alley even before anyone had seen it. So
it's incredibly.
I think a lot of the worry was that it would be too inaccessible, but the response to it has been like, it's actually not.
Yes, it actually, you might, even the trailer I thought was like, remember like the opening teaser when it's just like her with the cigarette smoke, it like looked like very arty, and then you watch it and it's like, but none of this is even in it basically, and it's just like very straightforward and borderline, like I find things, it's not, I wouldn't call it like a black comedy, but it is funny like at parts, because she's just such a the character is just so up her own ass basically. It's really really good stuff, and Kate is unbelievable in it. That was the one that maybe had the best response, I would say, at Telluride. But even that, I talked to people and they were like, didn't like it, walked out, stuff like that. And then like a movie like Bardo.
Who was, before you continue, who was your Spencer friend this year?
So one man, when I was walking out of Empire of Light, was like, just saw an Oscar winner. And I was like, that was the vibe of Empire of Light at Telluride, where it was like, it's funny that you said like how critics and audiences, that felt like a possibility for like a Green Book style thing, because I think a lot of the critics I spoke to were like, there's obviously like, it's incredibly well made. There are a lot of great parts. Like Olivia Colman is great. The score is Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. It's awesome. Great Roger Deakins cinematography, incredible production design. All these different parts are great, but the movie is like mixed to worse maybe. But then like, people like that guy was like Oscar winner, you know, and like I think the sense at Telluride was at least is that older audiences, perhaps of the Academy side of things, would really respond to something like Empire of Light, whereas critics will seemingly not. But then a movie like Bardo, which I think before we saw it, people were like, that'll be the critical choice, right? Like obviously, like an esoteric, like auto fiction from Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. And then all the critics can't stand it. And then at Telluride, Joyce, a theme I noticed was, well, at Venice, it got pretty much eviscerated. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
And then at Telluride, I was hearing more people like appreciative of it, but so Telluride, there is like a lot of filmmakers there. Like Chloe Zhao was there, Barry Jenkins was there, and those people loved it. Like Chloe Zhao and Barry Jenkins were very high on it, it seemed.
Lulu Wang was tweeting the hell out of the movie.
And so it makes you wonder, like a movie like that, is that like the anti-Green Book, or somehow where it's like, well, critics didn't like it and don't seemingly will come around to it. I don't think it's going to get like a renewed appreciation from critics, since a lot of them have already seen it. But will the industry itself really respond to it? And will filmmakers respond to it, specifically for Alejandro to get another Best Director nomination after winning back-to-back Best Director awards? I mean, that's like, I found that funny. So like all of these are like, every one of
the
these
other funny part was he was trying to hit back on a lot of the reviews,
yes,
but then, and like accuse a lot of them of racism.
Yes.
But then in the same quote, he says he doesn't read the reviews, or he didn't read the reviews.
Right. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say he did, or at least had them read to him. Maybe he doesn't read them specifically, but maybe he understands what's going on. So that was Telluride, and then Toronto happened, and I guess the other one at Telluride was Women
Still
Talking. Still happening. The other one at Telluride was Women Talking. That was like Women Talking and Empire Blight were the two big premieres there, and Women Talking was very well received. It seemed people did respond to it a lot. I was saying this to you offline. When you go to festivals, Joyce, I think a lot of people who are there are men, and a lot of them are,
really?
Yes.
You mean just like how most critics are men?
Yes. And
wow.
a lot, yes,
News to
it's
me.
wild. And a lot of men that I spoke to really liked it. And then I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if, because I think, so Women Talking, if you don't know, it's a Sarah Polley movie. It's based on a book by, I forget the author. Great job by me. I think it's like Miriam Townes. Let's see. Good stuff. Miriam Toews. Yeah. Wow, look at that. Toews. Tows? Like Lowe's? Toes? It's fine. I'll figure it out. I have like 6 months to figure it out, Joyce. We'll be fine. So Sarah Polley directed it. Incredible cast, produced by Frances McDormand, who has a very, very small part. She's not in it at all. She's barely, like she has 2 scenes maybe. And Dee Dee Gardner and Brad Pitt from Plan B. And it's a very good movie, very talky. I saw people comparing it to like 12 Angry Men because it is basically just like, here are a bunch of people in a, it pays off the title, Joyce. It is a lot of women talking. It's about a religious.
I love when movies is just a title.
It's great. No one says women talking in it. It's not one of those where you could like Leonardo DiCaprio meme it.
It's like The Sixth Sense.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And so it's about a religious community. They're not named, but it's like Mennonite or whatever. It's based on like, at least inspired by real events. All the women in the community were being systemically sexually assaulted and raped by the men in the community and being lied to and told that it was like a demon or some kind of like fantasy or magic. And they're caught in the act. And then the women have to talk about how they want to move forward. And so Sarah Polley uses that. And none of the sexual assault stuff is just seen like very briefly in like flashbacks or whatever. It's not like graphic at all. And it's mostly just them talking about how to respond, but it also feels incredibly modern because you have like 3 different generations of women in this room, and they're all talking about how to move forward and process like all these like misogyny and sexual assault and all these things, and how to move forward and what they want to, how they want to respond. So you have like the older generation being like more like forgiving, let's say, or whatever, and then like the middle generation being much more angered and aggrieved. The younger generation really expressing their trauma in a way that triggers the middle generation. It's like really well done. And I just really liked it. And there's one male character, and it's Ben Whishaw, who literally plays like not all men. He is like the most kind ally. So I was like watching it. I was like, I think a lot of men will respond to this because I think they'll react to the Ben Whishaw character and be like, I'm like that guy, even if they're not. Kind of like White Lotus style, right? You can't, the object of the satire maybe doesn't get the satire. And so initially that was the response. But then I've seen perhaps some people suggesting that men would not respond to it. And at Toronto, it's seemingly a lot more of the male critics were a little more unhappy with it.
The response at TIFF was a lot less enthused.
Yes. And I think,
and I've seen a lot of just complete polar opposite takes on Ben. Like I've seen some people say, he's definitely getting in, and others say like he's definitely not getting in.
We could talk about that. I've waffled on that myself. I think initially at Telluride, a lot of the buzz was the idea that it's going to be hard to pick one of the women because they're all incredibly good. And again, Frances McDormand is really not in it. So if you're thinking of predicting her for Best Actress, don't do that. And even supporting actress, I don't think.
Well, she also doesn't win supporting. She only wins in lead.
And she's not, wouldn't even get it. But there's like, Rooney Mara, I think.
I think the two is Claire Foy and Jessie Buckley.
Right. Those are the 2 standouts. And Judith Ivey is really incredible as well. And so the 3 of them, and then Rooney is good. And then Ben is the only male. I think a lot of people were like, oh, maybe he would get, dragged along. And like, if you're looking to honor the thing, it does feel like way more of an ensemble, though, the way it's put together and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, like those are the ones I've seen. And then at Toronto, there was also the Fabelmans choice. Which was...
Spielberg, he brought Fabelmans to TIFF, and it was a huge deal. Because he was doing a festival premiere.
Yes, as he said incorrectly, and then other people incorrectly reported, he was like, "It's my first festival movie."
It was his first TIFF.
Toronto, yes.
Yeah. It was his
Not
first,
his first.
not his first festival.
No, he's been in many
Far
festivals.
from his first festival.
Yes. And I am they released, so the movie premiered Saturday night, right after Knives Out, which is another movie that I think has maybe like reframed itself as an Oscar contender because of how some of the Netflix movies have performed. We could get to that. But Fabelmans premiered Saturday night pretty late, like I think after 9:00 and after a long day of movies. And the response was almost unanimously good, if not euphoric, I would say. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean that the response was what I expected, and I didn't expect it to be completely over the top like
Right.
in some other, not necessarily this year, but in like previous years where like some films just everyone is just salivating over it. I felt like it was not going to be one of those films that would produce a mixed response or a lower than expected response. So I think it met my expectations. And I think it's good that people were not like egregious in their praise of it, because it's already the front runner and a lot of its rivals are seemingly falling by the wayside. So it doesn't need an even bigger target on its back. So I mean, like, it could win like People's Choice, like who knows, maybe. And that will even solidify its position as a front runner even more. So but I think it's good, like, because there were still some reviews still had some reservations about it, right? It was like it wasn't like totally reserved, but it was just like it's good, but like these are like some issues or whatever and blah blah blah. And it's like it's yet again another love letter to cinema.
A lot of love letters to cinema this
Yeah.
year, and a lot of filmmakers deciding this is the time to be reflective on their lives. So we've had last year we had Belfast and Licorice Pizza, I think would qualify in that world. This year you've got Armageddon Time, which James Gray is like nakedly autobiographical movie about his own life. Bardo, which is basically Alejandro and Gonzalez Inarritu. I'm surprised he actually didn't just star in it. The actor who is in it basically plays Inarritu, Daniel Jimenez Cacho, and looks just like him and like moves like him and everything. And you have Empire of Light, which Sam Mendes has said is based on his own experiences and with the cinema, Joyce, and everything else.
Yeah,
and then Spielberg,
and like he said like COVID like not forced but like inspired him to like look inward,
right,
and write about this. So
and if you're watching and you're like, who's the Mendes character? I don't believe there is one in that one, because it's about Olivia Colman is a woman with some mental health problems, works at a movie theater, and she strikes up a relationship with a man played by Michael Ward in 1980s London. So it deals with like mental health struggles, which I think was one of the things that Mendes, at least at Telluride, talked about being inspired by, and then just the racism that he saw in early 80s England. And that is like, he uses the Michael Ward character to express that, I guess. And the magic of cinema also. A lot of magic cinema, Joyce. This is the year movies now more than ever for this year's Oscars, I guess.
Yeah. So, well, like the thing with like Empire of Light, again, like mixed response. So then when Fabelmans premiered and a lot more positive response, there was like, the inevitable comparison of like what, if you didn't like Empire of Light, it was like what Mendes like did quote unquote wrong.
Right.
What Spielberg did right.
I hazard to like, we'll talk about this because again, we're gonna be talking about these movies for 6 months, maybe 4 months, 5 months, a lot of months.
Because as the Oscars account tweeted on Monday, the day of the Emmys, it's exactly 6 months until the Oscars.
So we're gonna have a lot of.
What do you think will win Best Picture? That's what it tweeted.
Amazing.
On Monday, September 12th.
A lot of time to talk about these, and the Empire of Light I don't think comes out until December, so like 3 months from now. So I'm not gonna I don't want to spoil or anything, but there were things I thought about it that were really incredibly, like I said, all the pieces are really good. I think the movie itself, it's the first movie that Sam Mendes wrote by himself without a co-writer or without working from somebody else's script. And I think he had a lot of ideas, and some of those ideas are not as fleshed out as other ideas, and then some of it doesn't like totally connect. That was my take. But again, very worthy film, but maybe not the slam dunk that people expected just based on the pedigree. Also, for people looking at that, Colin Firth, not really in it very much either. He has like he's definitely a supporting part, I would say. So,
which I think a lot of people figured out,
yeah,
like just based on the set photos from the spring when they were filming. Because I think people thought like Olivia and Colin were a couple or whatever.
Right.
But there were a lot of set photos of her and Michael. So
yeah. One last thing on Fabelmans, I would say, and I agree with everything you said about the response too. The thing I thought, again, because I'm very cynical, I feel like certain movies automatically have targets on their backs right before it even starts. And so like, I think the Fabelmans and Babylon this year are the two. We had a Babylon trailer this week as well. So that is not screened yet, but the trailer was like, hell yeah, to me. I was just like, yes, do Boogie Nights and Wolf of Wall Street. But those movies had targets on their backs. The fact that the Fabelmans response was like, not over the top praise, but also not like, this sucks and I hate it so much, leads me to believe that it's actually good, like trying to read between the lines. Because I think if it was even remotely questionable, people would have pounced on it. That was because they know it's the front runner, so they want to take it down.
I don't know, because I feel like a lot of people there, like these festival goers and pundits and critics and whatever, they're also very aware of how their hyperbole can affect the race, even though they want to be, first. They really want to be first with like the take on it, right out the first screening. So I don't know like how much that self-awareness affects their take when they know this is a front runner and they know these other films have, moved lower down the rankings, let's say. And like if they think like their, like their take can influence the Fabelmans' position in the race, and like how do they want to modulate that. So but I again, I didn't expect the praise to be excessive, because I don't think it's that type of movie, and I think you just also expect a Spielberg movie to be good. Like
that's true. I mean, when has he ever missed, really? BFG, was that the last one he missed? Like, honestly.
But
like,
it wasn't like horrible, like
it's BFG I'm not a fan of, but I would agree if his worst in like the last 20 years is BFG, that's better than most filmmakers' best. So two things before we go to our again early picks, Joyce. But I want the other one's another movie that kind of seemingly polarized, and I don't know if flamed out, but we'll see. We haven't seen, is The Son, which I think we were both like very expectant of because of Florian Zeller and the father.
A lot of speaking of divisive,
a lot of look at Letterboxd, a lot of like 2-star reviews on Letterboxd. Not what you want for that. Seemingly very divisive, obviously incredibly heavy and dark material, and I think that has polarized people in a way that The Whale, I guess we could put in this part too, has not, though I think The Whale is polarized for other reasons. It seems like a lot of the response to The Whale has been like, people are openly weeping in the aisles and are very affected by Brendan Fraser and like basically throwing themselves on the ground at his feet. And then also there are people who are like, this movie is legitimately like an act. There was a headline, a Polygon review. I'll just read the headline for it because I just couldn't believe it. Again, I haven't seen this movie, and based the Polygon review, Darren Aronofsky's The Whale is an act of hate disguised as tough love. So definitely on the opposite ends of the spectrum, where you have like people like Brendan Fraser, and then this movie is a hate crime. So another one that may be polarized, but that and The Son, I think, are two that I could put together as like
it was divisive.
Yeah,
so the Whale did not have like all the praise was just basically reserved for Brendan Fraser. But like the film itself overall was like, pass. But it had a much better response with the TIFF crowd, which is also not surprising to me.
Right. I mean, TIFF is more, so like if you think about this, like Venice is very, I'd say of the three, I don't know. I mean, TIFF is definitely the most mainstream. It's the biggest tent.
Yeah.
Most movies, most people,
that's why they have the People's Choice Award.
They have the People's Choice Award, and it's like Green Book won that, you know what I mean? Like that is the biggest tent. Telluride is much more like Cineast/LA, I feel. Like when I go, I'm like, there's not a lot of East Coast representation up in Telluride, Joyce.
Yeah.
And then Venice is like people who wear top hats. I don't know. I mean, I just think it's like very fancy. That's my impression of it. I never went.
Top hats and you go there to spit on Chris Pine. So
you go there to spit on Chris Pine. You go there to clock a standing ovation. You got to like sit there with the stopwatch. They give those out before you go in.
You go on a boat, ride.
Oh yeah, I've seen those boats.
Ride. Yeah,
those look cool. It looks like
Indiana Jones. The photo for Instagram, so
yeah,
do it for the gram.
It's like Indiana Jones' Last Crusade, and then they give you stopwatches when you get off the boat, and everybody's timing those standing ovations, and you spit on Chris Pine. So that's what Venice is like. Telluride again, like more like I feel like it's more industry. I've been to Telluride and Toronto And Telluride is absolutely my favorite. I think it's just like really good, and the
It,
experience.
it also it's a lot. It's the smallest in scale too.
Well, yeah, let's like so Toronto has literally, like, we're joking, still going on, right? Like, as we're recording this, is September 14th. I think it started like, I don't even know, last week, 2 weeks ago, who knows? Telluride is like over 3 days, and there's only like 25 movies there, so you actually could see most of the movies. I feel like I didn't really miss anything at Telluride that I really wanted to see. And at Toronto, I think it's tough to see everything. The other Toronto one before we do it was Knives Out, like I mentioned. I was expecting that to be very warmly received. The original was at Toronto and was like everyone like doing somersaults over it, and same thing happened this time. People really like it. Seems like Rian Johnson did not miss.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it. It met my expectations. I don't know.
Met my expectations too, which I think actually for the Netflix slate is a positive, because like we were talking, like Bardo is a little divisive. White Noise, we didn't even talk about. Premiered at Venice.
Opened Venice that like 17 years ago. So
it's right. It opened Venice in 2017, I think, actually. And I don't even think, it's at the time, it's funny. This is how much, like, you're right. Like, the whole season has been a lot of like just polarized, and this had Oscar buzz type feels. But White Noise, the reviews at the time, it was like, when I saw those, I remember thinking like, oh no, not know what you want. But now, after 15 other movies have like been split or worse, I'm like, oh, White Noise maybe could have a nice little bounce back in New York Film Festival, because it was not really negatively received. I think it was mostly just like, it's good, not great. That was like the general critical consensus.
That was also what the expected reception would be, because it was like, it's hard to adapt this book
right
into a film. Like, let's see what he does, Noah Baumbach. And yeah, it wasn't like overly negative. It wasn't like a Bardo-esque reception.
No, and now I'm like, oh, maybe that could have a comeback. And then I guess last thing I'll say before we do this is, obviously with all these movies falling off, I think it's given an opportunity to really entrench movies that we expected to be there from the spring and summer to be there.
Yeah, that's the other part I like about these, projected Oscar contenders sort of, falling out, let's say. It's like, yeah, this really solidifies like Everything Everywhere All at Once, or like Top Gun Maverick.
And when I was
that's cool to see these films that really, like I've mentioned this previously in one of our Oscar playbacks, but like films that when they were being made, you can tell they had absolutely no Oscar aspirations.
And that's always great. They just want to make a good movie. And that's always actually like a really good thing. I would say at Toronto and Telluride, Everything Everywhere was very top of mind, because Michelle Yeoh is all over the place. She
is campaigning her ass off. So
and she was at Telluride with
like an award every single place every week.
She was at Telluride with a re-screening or remastering of Crouching Tiger, and did like a Q&A. And she was, at the Sony, I think she went to the Sony Classics dinner, maybe. I think I saw her at, because it's a Sony movie. And so it was like hobnobbing it up in Telluride. And at Toronto, they just created fake awards or something for like all these contenders, and she and Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, no, the best is like, so this is like total semantics, but I hate when people receive, it's not just like at TIFF, but like anywhere, when people receive honorary awards and then everyone says they win an award. No, they didn't win. It wasn't competitive. Like they knew they were getting this.
Right.
They were chosen by people to get this award.
Right. So she's all over the place and really running, and that was top of mind. And then just honestly, like, this is completely anecdotal, so you can take this with a grain of salt. But when I was talking, Telluride is fun because you stand online with strangers and you just talk to them. Or for my case, I stay up on the mountain, Joyce. I sit in a gondola and ride up on a gondola with people.
You on a gondola.
It's really great. And you get to talk to people in those gondolas. And I'll tell you what, at least one or two people, when I was like, they were like, what's your favorite movie? And I was like, of the year was Top Gun. It's still my favorite movie of the whole year. And I was like kind of embarrassed. And they were like, absolutely the best movie I've seen this year. So people really are still loving Top Gun. And it actually,
how many times have they seen Top Gun?
I mean, I've seen it twice. I didn't ask them how many times they've seen it. Actually, one woman said she saw it twice also. She went both times in the theater. She was a projectionist, and I was talking to her outside of a movie that I love that we will not really talk about, but I'll just mention because I think you'd get a kick out of it too, is the Senior. It's a documentary Robert Downey Jr. made about his father, Robert Downey Sr., and it was amazing. And it's like the greatest thing, and it has no distribution yet. I think it's playing at New York Film Festival. And hopefully it will get this. I think if it gets actually picked up for this year, it could easily get in for best documentary, even though it's not a very what's the word? like a very nice group. They are very not as sentimental, let's say, but it is actually really good. And it's like Chris Smith directed it, who did American Movie. But anyway, that lady outside of that movie, she was like, she was a projectionist and she had seen it twice. So Top Gun, I was like very much solidified, I think, especially after how all these other movies performed so far. That was my main take.
Yeah, and also sort of good for Elvis too.
I think so. It's funny, Elvis has been on HBO Max. It came on right over Labor Day weekend. And I guess another anecdotal thing, but I'm wondering, like, I've seen people maybe suggesting that it doesn't play as well. I haven't not rewatched it. I saw it in the theater. Maybe it doesn't play as well at home, but I have a hard time believing that because it is kind of like an energetic movie. But I think that'll help it too, because a lot of these movies have flopped.
Yeah, I think if you're watching Elvis at home at this point and you hadn't seen it yet, I think you're just kind of like looking for something to watch. Like if you weren't waiting for it to come on HBO Max to watch it,
right?
And my friend told me she saw Elvis in the theater, and she said she had no idea that Baz Luhrmann directed it until the credits.
It's funny that I guess it is like, to me, it was like the most least Baz like and the most Baz like, it both at the same time.
But I mean, I know she just somehow completely missed that it was a Baz Luhrmann movie, and so she just saw it to see an Elvis movie, but then she was like, when she saw his name, she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
it's amazing.
So, I know. So I'm just wondering, like, how many people now just scrolling through HBO Max on a lazy Saturday for something to watch, and they watch Elvis, like how like do they know that this is a Baz Luhrmann movie? Because I can also see, like, if you watch it, you think it's going to be like some straightforward biopic, you could be completely turned off,
right? True. All right, Joyce, so should we do our picks now, our early updated picks? We have our picks from August was the last time we did this. Now it's mid-September, so it's only a month, but now
so much has happened in a month.
A lot has happened, and like I think we're really so I guess I'll read off my picks, and then I'll read off my new picks, Joyce. So August, this is what we were thinking in August, not seeing anything.
We have a whole spreadsheet now.
This whole spreadsheet now.
It's like our March ones.
Our March ones are here August, too. I have to like update. I have to like I don't have mine alphabetized when I read them off, but I'll put them on the spreadsheet. And I'll alphabetize for next time. Next time we do this. But I have Babylon. This is August. Babylon, Bardo, Empire of Light, Everything Everywhere, The Fabelmans, She Said, The Sun, Top Gun, White Noise, and Women Talking. Now, She Said has not screened yet, and everything else we've talked about has either screened or is already released, except for Babylon. But now, Joyce, I have Babylon, and I have The Banshees of Inisherin, which we did not discuss, but that is Martin.
That was one of the few ones that survived.
It survived incredible rave reviews, maybe like Martin McDonagh's best movie, it seems. So I have Babylon and Banshees of Inisherin, Best Picture. I have that's 1, 2. I have Everything Everywhere All at Once still, The Fabelmans, Top Gun, Women Talking, Tar, and then my last 3 are all not alphabetically here, obviously, but a little dart throws. Glass Onion I put in for Knives Out. I think the response to it was really strong. People really seem to respond to it. I think the fact that some of these other movies have flamed out, kind of, or at least are not as unifying as a Best Picture nominee, I feel like Glass Onion could get in, though I say this with reservations that I think it could also be like Avatar 2 or Black Panther 2 as like an audience movie. I have The Woman King, another movie that I think has been very well liked. Everyone seems to enjoy it.
And they've cranked up the ads this week.
It comes out Friday.
No ads this entire time, and then you start playing ads like at the start of September. And I swear to God, during the Emmys, they played that ad like at least 152 times.
And I get the sense everyone really liked it. It's very appreciated at the very least. I didn't see one person saying like it's bad. It seems like it's like
it feels like it's like a very like fun crowd pleaser with like great action set pieces and great performances.
Yes.
I don't know how far it'll go Oscar wise, but I just want it to be a hit for Viola, like just a box office. It opens this Friday.
Yeah, I think actually it could, and I think if people respond to it the way they have, at least at Toronto,
I think the best thing for it is to just leg out at the box office. Like it doesn't need to blow off the box office this weekend, but if it could just like leg out for over the next month, like that would be really good for it. Because it reminds me of like Widows, because like that premiered at festivals, like
Yes.
got a great reception, but that did not do well.
So I think the difference to me is that Widows ended up not being like a mainstream crowd pleaser. And this feels like it's right down the middle. I mean, like it looks like Gladiator. People are comparing it to Gladiator. Maybe that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but like that's what it kind of seems like. And the last movie, Joyce, I have for Best Picture then is Living, which you were way early on. That was one of the ones I saw. I tell you right.
I was way early on Bill Nye. I don't even have a spoiler. I don't even have Living. And
I'll tell you what. Here's why I put Living. So Living was at Sundance. It's a remake of Akira, which is the Kurosawa movie. Sony Picture Classics picked it up out of Sundance, and they kind of reignited it here on the festival circuit. I think it was maybe at Venice, but it definitely was at Telluride, obviously, because that's where I saw it. And it is, of all the movies I saw at Telluride, and this is again very anecdotal and like a small sample size, this was the one that had most people like literally in tears, including me, because it's very sweet. And like,
you cry at everything.
I know, but this was like one of the only ones I actually cried at a Telluride. And Bill Nye's incredible in it. And the whole movie is actually like really, really good. It feels like old school, like Best Picture, like 90s. If we're talking like, I mean, it's better than these movies, but I was like Chocolat or like Full Monty style, where it could just be like a movie that people really, really like. And I think if Sony gets behind it, I think Sony Picture Classics is behind it, especially with like maybe The Son being not the crowd pleaser of the two. I think people,
I don't think anyone expected The Son to be a crowd pleaser.
No, but I think like people will respond to Living really well. So that's like a dart throw, and like obviously indicative of the fact that a lot of these other movies have maybe been a little more polarizing, because I don't have like Empire of Light or Bardo. But anyway, I have Living. So that's my 10.
Okay, so my 10 in August was Babylon, Bardo, Empire of Light, Everything Everywhere, The Fabelmans, The Sun, Tar, Top Gun, White Noise, and Woman Talking. And now I have, let me make sure I have 10 here, because I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now I have Babylon.
Okay.
Banshees. I thought about this a lot. I still have Bardo.
Okay.
I have Elvis.
Okay.
Everything Everywhere. Fabelmans. Glass Onion as well. Tar, Top Gun, and Woman Talking.
So tell me why Bardo.
I think with a hard 10, like if it does have the industry support and appeal that it appears to have so far, like even Cate Blanchett, when she accepted the Volpe Cup in Venice for Best Actress, like she was raving about it. Like I could see this appealing to like artists, and like just like us, layman critics or whatever, not understanding the process of a tortured artist. So I could see it still getting enough support to get in, and just a lot of these other films as well, as we said, if like people don't respond to it, like I think that maybe the last two, but like definitely like the 10th spot, it could go to anything. Like I thought about Triangle of Sadness as well.
Yeah, I thought that too, but you know what, I feel like a lot of people, like, while that had like great buzz out of Cannes, I feel like a lot of people who've seen it now are like not as into it. And I think I've seen at least a few tweets that are like, oh, the Menu does this better than Triangle of Sadness. They're very similar movies, apparently.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's very open. Like there's very few locks here, like, and I also thought about The Whale in relation to Best Actor.
I thought The Whale too. I would say if I was picking, so like I actually had, well, what you're saying about Bardo will actually come and play for me in a category in the future. I thought Bardo, because I think whether you like, I could see it's not going to get an act. I don't think the actor, well, depends. Like a lot of the actors might actually like it because, like you said, it's about like an artist. But I think it will have a lot of support technically wise, because the cinematography, the sound, the production design, and the score, which Inarritu did himself, are just like awesome. It's like top level stuff. And I think a lot of the branches score maybe is like different, because if he's like a a tourist in the category, maybe they won't take him seriously. But I'm like, it'll have a lot of below the line support in those categories. And I guess you could argue it could actually be Mexico's international feature submission as
I
well.
was also thinking about it just like Nightmare Alley, which I don't like.
Yes.
No one hated Nightmare Alley. It didn't get bashed like Bardo did, but it was just kind of like it was a filler nominee,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So for the 10th slot. So yeah, I mean, I also thought about keeping Empire of Light just as like, you know, Oscar bait, like love letter to cinema style, because I could also still see like that also has like some polarizing responses to, like some people love it. So I could see the industry falling for it too. I don't know. It's like, how many love letters to cinema are they gonna go for?
I don't know. And I mean, I think Empire of Light was definitely like all the ones we're talking, like I had all of them like in my pocket there. I put Living in only because I saw it. I think if you would not have seen it, you're right. It's like a Bill Nye play and this. But having watched it, I was like, man, the audience is eating this up. It's so mainstream, like right down the middle. It feels like older Oscar voters will really like it. And I think even cineasts would like it because of like the Kurosawa, like kind of, remake sheen on it. I don't know. I just was like, this is actually like really well done. And the message is great. And I just think looking at a lot of these movies, like especially The Sun, it's a comp. I'm just like, a lot of these are just so dark. I think Empire of Light has like a lot of actual light. Like I'm like trying to think like, what will people actually want to like celebrate? I don't know. Empire of Light, I think, could get into, because like Bardo, a lot of the technical elements are really great. It will have an acting support, I think, especially because Olivia Colman's incredible in it. And maybe it gets in as like, I could see that easily. The Whale, I thought too, like you said.
Like with Living, I feel like, I mean, I still have Bill Nye.
Right.
But like the film overall, I feel like, I mean, it could still, you know, obviously has time to grow and build buzz, and maybe that's better for it. It doesn't even open till December.
Right.
But I feel like the noise for it was really kind of drowned out.
It was.
So
it was. I mean, it's definitely a long shot, but I really, of the movies I saw at Telluride, it was like my favorite one, I would say.
You immediately texted me.
It's awesome.
And then I was like, there's no room on this bandwagon. And I
That's
haven't
fine. Stolen valor for me. It's fine. I don't care. For best director choice, let's go there. In August, I had Damien Chazelle for Babylon, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu for Bardo, Ruben Östlund for The Triangle of Sadness, Sarah Polley for Women Talking, and Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans. And now, Joyce, I have Damien Chazelle for Babylon. I have Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu for Bardo. I have Todd Field for Tar. I have Joseph Kosinski for Top Gun Maverick, and Steven Spielberg for Fabelmans.
Oh my God.
Here's my thinking. So everything you said about Bardo, I agree with. I just think it's going to actually focus on Iñárritu. It is a directorial achievement, probably unlike any other, or at least any attempt. He really is taking a big swing. Obviously, like we mentioned, like filmmakers and actors are really responding to it. The director's branch is pretty insular, I think, and like kind of like very much a boys club. And he's obviously been there before. I think he will have a lot of support inside that branch and from filmmakers. And I think it'll be, we always say like there is an international auteur spot, and I think he actually gets it this time for Bardo, even though he's like the whole movie is about. Yes, exactly. So I have him in, and the reason I put Kosinski in is Top Gun is really good, and I think the more people are seeing these other movies, the more it's falling out. It's a complete long shot. I think he's like 100 to 1 in our odds. No one is predicting him, but I'm like, why not? I actually think you could argue it's no less of an achievement than George Miller did for Fury Road. And I think the branch will actually like really respond to him. So
I can totally see him getting a DJ nomination and also being the DJ snubby.
He could. It could be like Villeneuve for sure, right? Like that kind of thing. If you'll notice, I have an all-male list of nominees that Natalie Portman would be very upset about. I knocked out Sarah Polley because I loved Women Talking. I think that because the branch is so insular and male, that when you see like Jane Campion and Chloe Zhao obviously winning here back-to-back years and getting nominated, those movies were much more I don't want to say cinematic, but obviously they were like, like wild open range type things. And the fact that Women Talking is so much in a barn, I think people maybe will not appreciate it. And I do wonder, I think Sarah Polley's best work in the movie is with the actors. And I kind of sometimes wonder, do people actually pay attention to that? You know, like she does such a great job with this cast and they're so in lockstep and it's such a like, just everything about it is so good, but I almost wonder where if the directing is too subtle to get her in. I would love to be wrong. I think she should get in. But I'm not predicting it. So at least right now, maybe it'll change probably a million times, but that's why I took her out.
Okay. So in August, I had Chazelle in Yachty 2, Mendes, Polly, and Spielberg. And now I have Chazelle, the Daniels, Todd Field, Martin McDonagh, and Spielberg. So I also dropped Sarah Polley.
Okay.
But I dropped her more because based on like the reviews and the reactions, it just it didn't seem like her direction was noted as much. And I don't know if it was just like I feel like a lot of people pointed out the staginess of it. So yeah, I don't know if it's because it is just like they're just sitting around talking, and like you could still make that cinematic. Like obviously I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but it just feel like no one is hyping her up the same way that they were for Jane or Chloe, and it felt like it's more of a writing achievement for her. So I have her in like winning adapted still.
Right.
So yeah, I took her out for now, and I put in McDonagh because yeah, you know, like you said, like all the raves, and Todd Field as well. And then the Daniels, I just did it because I feel like Everything Everywhere is, again, you know, one of the few survivors like from the spring, like the earliest survivor.
Right.
And I don't know. So I could see them easily getting snubbed too, because like this branch is so idiosyncratic and it can be really snobby as well.
So I think it's funny that we both have like similar thoughts. So I went Kaczynski for Top
just
Gun,
get
you went
completely
Daniels.
different people.
Right, just different people. But I think the same idea holds. I think that like those are two, Top Gun and Everything Everywhere. I would actually be shocked if they don't get Best Picture nominations, right? So like now, like one of those directors or the Daniels, and because I feel like they are going to get in. I do think that's true. But I went with Kaczynski because I think Top Gun is the bigger movie.
We also haven't mentioned either Avatar or Black Panther.
So like I said, I mean, I think it depends on, I don't want to bet against James Cameron, but I think until people
I don't have either of them because like they haven't been seen yet. So
if we can see it as easily, I think Cameron would be the more realistic nominee than Coogler, but it's funny. So I agree with you. The other thing I noticed with women talking is like one critic, when I watched the movie again, I really liked it. I actually think the last shot of women talking is like one of the top last shots of like the last few years. It's so good. And the end of the movie is great. And she does a great job with the cast, like I said. One of the things, like when I walked out, like I didn't even think of this, but like somebody was like, oh, the cinematography is really weird. Like they didn't like the way it looked.
It's desaturated a lot.
Because it's desaturated, but I mean, like it does take place from like dusk till dawn. So it's like, of course it is. And that didn't really bother me. But one critic said that at Telluride. And then like, I've seen multiple people like parrot that at TIFF because I feel like everybody just like kind of jumps on the same group think. And so I think that kind of thing actually ends up hurting. It actually hurts Polly because like, I think people like be like, oh, you know, this great movie, cinematography sucks. And she's going to get blamed for like the way it looks, even though I don't think that's fair. And I think it looks fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've seen a lot of talk about like the desaturation, but I don't know if she'll get blamed for it. Like that's still the cinematography.
Right.
So just don't nominate in cinematography if you don't like it. So I don't know. I mean, I would love for her to get in. I don't know. I just feel like, you know, in Jane and Chloe's cases, like they just felt a lot stronger at this point.
Yes, I agree.
In this category, at least. And also like their films as well. Like no one, it's like this, I don't think, you know, the overall reception to Women Talking is positive. But it's not like frontrunner, like this is winning Best Picture type of thing. Like I don't think it's like dethroned Fabelmans in that regard.
And Todd Field, I feel like it's just got Tar to me is like There Will Be Blood all over again. I think it'll get picture director, she'll win actress. Spoiler alert, I have her in, obviously. I think it could get like original screenplay and like a cinematography nomination and like a few other nominations, and it's like will be very well respected and not win a ton. But I think he'll get in for sure, Todd Field. It's a great movie. It's like definitely, and I think like we said, because of the way a lot of these other movies have fallen off, like Tar is a movie that I liked at the time and thought about a lot, and now 2 weeks later I'm like, that was great. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of thing.
I mean,
where I'm
like I was very excited for Tar, and like I was unsure of it getting into Best Picture a month ago, but now I'm like, it's gonna get in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now we'll do Best Actor, Joyce. I've had a lot of changes. So in August, I had Austin Butler for Elvis, Diego Calva for Babylon, Sight Unseen, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Hugh Jackman for The Sun, and Song Kang-ho for Broker. So those are my picks in August. And now in September, having actually seen stuff, I have Austin Butler for Elvis. I have Brendan Fraser for The Whale. I have Colin Farrell for Banshees of Inisherin. I have Brendan Gleeson for Banshees of Inisherin, and I have Bill Nye for Living. So I'm going both Banshees guys in lead because
I think they're gonna go double lead.
So it seems like if they go Brendan Gleeson in supporting, it would be like a primo category fraud that everybody's expecting, and he could probably win or do really well in supporting. But I do think that based on all the reviews, he is kind of like the co-lead, and like I think they'll both get in. Though this mostly speaks to the fact that this category has emptied out, I would say, to the point where I might have.
I mean, it was emptying out last month.
It was emptying out last month. Now it's really empty, and to the point where I'm like, Tom Cruise is like 6th for me in Top Gun, and I don't even think he'd get in.
I have seen people talk, if not predict him.
So I'm like, it's definitely like it's not exactly the strongest category, Joyce. So I have both Banshees guys in. I have Bill Nye, Austin Butler, and Brendan Fraser. And I would say I really wanted to pick Bill Nye, but the narrative and like I said, the almost religious fervor for supporting Brendan Fraser, even for a movie that people are either like, is a hate crime according to Polygon, or just like not as is a little polarizing. I think everyone loves Brendan Fraser and it's like basically wants him to win Best Actor. So I think he is still the front runner, but that's my list. I don't know.
Okay. In August, I did not make as many changes as you. So in August, I had Austin Butler, Brendan Fraser, Daniel Jimenez Cacho, Hugh Jackman, and Bill Nye.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have Butler, Colin Farrell, Fraser, Jackman, and Nye. So I just replaced Daniel Jimenez Cacho with Colin Farrell, who I am very excited about getting his first Oscar nomination.
I think you could argue that if it wasn't for Fraser, he would actually win, but it seems like the Fraser of it all is like going to make it tough to beat.
I actually have Austin in first.
You still have Austin in first.
This is my first time having Austin in first.
Right.
I've never
had sorry.
So it's like I basically put Elvis in just so I could decide who to put first in Best Actor, because as we know, you need a Best Picture, a corresponding Best Picture nomination in this category. The last person to win without one was Jeff Bridges for Crazy Heart.
Well, that's what I was actually thinking. I'm actually thinking it will be like that year, or like Forrest Whitaker for Last King of Scotland. That's what this feels like to me, because I don't think the Best Picture nominees are strong enough to get. I don't think Butler could win personally, because I think Fraser is like very strong. But I don't
even feel strongly about Austin Butler either. I think it's probably at this point between him and Brendan. So that's why I also debated putting The Whale in. So when, like, again, I could still see it getting in. And yeah, there's a lot of love for Brendan Fraser. So I can see him winning. So I just chose one movie to get the Best Picture nomination.
Right. I think that's
expanded field, because also Last King of Scotland still a field of 5 when Forrest won.
I don't think it would have gotten in though anyway, though.
No, it wouldn't have gone into Best Picture then, but like that was just kind of like a towering performance, and he swept the season. I don't know / think any of these guys will sweep the season, like including like the critics prizes.
I don't know. I mean, like the critics are like, a lot of them are very unhappy with The Whale, it seemed. Like
I can see split. Like Colin doing well.
I think Colin could really win a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like I'm not like like I would rather just list these people alphabetically than choose one to win, because
Sure.
like I'm not confident in either of them winning. And I don't know if The Whale doesn't get in Best Picture. I don't know if Brendan is like, he's not a Jeff Bridges who was like way overdue to win as well. Like he has his own narrative, like the comeback narrative, right? But we've seen that falter too.
And I would say this, like, I actually texted this to somebody. It feels like, gosh, I love Brendan Fraser. He seems really charming. He obviously went through a lot. And like, there's like a GQ article that you could read from like 2018 where he talked about like being allegedly sexually assaulted or, by
if the Globes give him Best Actor.
And like, and he definitely like, I think he suffered a lot of like injuries on like very physical movies and like kind of like burned out, like understandably, and went through like a lot of personal stuff. So it's great to see him back. And apparently he is great in the movie. I last thing I seen him in was No Sudden Move, which is Soderbergh's movie like last year that he's awesome in too. So it's
the
nice
last thing I saw him in was The Affair on Showtime.
Sure.
A lot of people calling this his acting comeback. No, he was on TV. He was also in that FX series Trust.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do wonder, but I wonder how you're right. I wonder how the industry views him. And like, to me, a lot of the nostalgia for him is like similar to nostalgia for like the Star Wars prequels, where you have like younger people, like millennials or like younger, who grew up with those movies and love them, right? Like the Star Wars prequels are like really great. And Brendan Fraser, I think from like The Mummy and his 90s movies and like all those things has like there's a real affection for him online. And I wonder if that will translate to the Academy. Like Brendan Fraser is not Jeff Bridges. I don't think that's an insult to Brendan Fraser. And the performance seemingly is undeniable. We haven't seen it. So it could be great. And I'm not knocking it, but I'm just like, I just wonder how much it's like Jeff Bridges is Jeff Bridges and Brendan Fraser is Brendan Fraser. And I don't know how much that's going to translate over. And then maybe, like you said, like someone like Colin Farrell could actually like steamroll or win a little more critical support. And then
that would be great. I think the thing with, again, having not seen this movie, like I think his issue is that like he is just, his role is not as baity as Elvis or an overweight man, overweight depressed man.
Right.
So,
so I went to Bill Nye. You were on him early. I think it's like a slam dunk nomination, and especially because
I would love to see it too if he were to win somehow.
I would love to see him win. I mean, talk about like a guy who's like going to be great on the campaign trail. Bill Nye is just like the most charming human being in the world. He had the whole Telluride audience like eating out of the palm of his hand, basically. He was so fun. And I'm like, if this guy's going to be like just shaking hands and kissing babies, good luck beating him, basically. And then I had Brendan Gleeson in at the last spot, and you had so we have the same that you have
I have Hugh,
and you kept Hugh Jackman. So I moved Hugh Jackman out because the response to the Sun has been mixed. And I would say a lot of people, at least that I've read, have been, if not critical of Hugh Jackman, like not necessarily blown away by Hugh Jackman. And while I think he's beloved, I wonder if he's like the Jennifer Lopez and Hustlers of this season. That's my early take.
Well, he's already been nominated before.
I know, but like that kind of thing where it's like you're having a super famous person that you think is going to like get in and that doesn't.
No, I don't think, that I don't want to go with that comp. I think he is vulnerable. But I think of all the performances in The Sun, I think he still got the most positive reviews. Like there are people who do not like his performance too, but I think there are more in the positive column than negative for him. And I think there's something about his acting style that turns off some people.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit of like an acquired taste, but I think he could be, like we said, like this category, it has really emptied out. So I think he can hang on.
He could, and he will be able to campaign a lot because he's leaving Music Man and it's closing.
Yeah, they announced that yesterday. Yeah, it's closing in January.
So I'm like, he will definitely be out there and very visible. And obviously, like, think really he like pushed for this part in The Sun. I think, and he really is going to be behind the movie. And obviously, Sony Classics has such a great track record of getting actors in with Bill Nye
with this and the Whale, not the Whale, Living.
Right. So I'm like, I think he could get. I have him and Tom Cruise like in that last, like in the immediate aftermath of like the top 5. I guess if Brendan Gleeson moves out, I would think about probably Hugh Jackman over Tom Cruise, because I don't think people would take seriously Tom Cruise for Best Actor. But now I don't think it's actually off the table because of how this category is emptied out, I guess. That would be my
Imagine like, we've talked so much, well, especially us with like all our Oscars playbacks of Tom's, like, will he ever win an Oscar? Like his last nomination was for Magnolia, the previous century, 1999 film. Best year ever, 1999. His 3 nominations, and it's like, is he ever gonna win? Is he ever gonna get nominated again? And like, what if
it would be amazing
for Best Actor?
It would be amazing. I would
not just as a producer of Top Gun.
I would really love it. Best Actress choice. In August, I had Cate Blanchett for Tar, Olivia Colman for Empire of Light, Danielle Deadwyler for Till, Margot Robbie for Babylon, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere. And I have most of that same. I have Cate Blanchett for Tar, Olivia Colman now for Empire of Light, still in. I put Viola Davis in for The Woman King. I have Jennifer Lawrence in for Causeway, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. So I moved out Danielle Deadwyler and Margot Robbie for Babylon. I have not seen Babylon, just saw the trailer this week. Margot Robbie obviously is like front and center in it. I've heard great things about Till and Danielle Deadwyler, but I think that the strength of The Woman King for me as a potential Best Picture nominee put Viola Davis in. And I think that one of the things I noted, we have not talked about Causeway. It's a very small movie that Apple is releasing with Jennifer Lawrence and Brian Tyree Henry. It's like being hailed as Jennifer Lawrence's return to acting, even though she was a lead of Don't Look Up last year, but people are pretending that didn't exist and pretending that she wasn't almost an Oscar nominee for that in Best Actress, that this is like her return. And I don't know, I feel like Apple doesn't have a ton this year, it seems. So I think they'll be able to push her out there a lot and get people to watch the movie, especially because it's at home. And all the reviews I read were like, this movie's incredibly small, no one's going to see it, but she's amazing. And I'm like, I think people are going to see it. I just think like everybody's like kind of writing it off as it's like too small, but I think she could easily get in because she's Jennifer Lawrence and super famous, and if it's as good as they say, I guess. So I have her in. Those are my 5.
Okay. In August, I had Naomi Ackie, I Want to Dance with Somebody, Cate Blanchett, Olivia Colman, Margot Robbie, and Michelle Yeoh. And again, very few changes. So now I have Cate Blanchett, Olivia Colman. I put in Danielle Deadwyler, so I dropped Naomi Ackie. Okay. And I also had dropped Margot as well, but I just put her back. Wow. So I still have her. And Michelle Yeoh.
Okay.
So I did think about Viola. So I put in Danielle Deadwyler before The Woman King premiered at TIFF. And so, yeah, and I debated doing her again today, but I can see her getting in at SAG. They love her at SAG. And she'll probably win at SAG.
She could. I mean, people really responded to her in the movie. And like I said, this is now, we're doing the September, who knows? Like it could flop. I don't want it to flop, but it could be a bomb, or like people are just like not into it and maybe it just disappears. But it does feel like she is like, it's hard to discount Viola Davis, I would say, especially in this kind of like
no,
physical,
I think like right now for me, she's probably in like, I don't know, like 6th or 7th or something. Right. Yeah. And I think it will also depend on how it does when it opens this weekend too, and for the next month basically. J Law, so what you were saying about Causeway and it being small, like yeah, that's what all the reviews were like. And if you read her Vogue cover story, they basically, so they were filming it in 2019, obviously pre-COVID, and then they shut down, and then when they resumed, like they did a lot of reworking of the script.
Yes.
Because they realized that like she and Brian Tyree Henry have really great chemistry. It's not a romantic thing at all. It's just like they're just these two people dealing with trauma who befriend each other. And yeah, so basically like if you read that profile, like they talk about like how like every day on set, like they were just workshopping it, and there's a lot of scenes that are improvised as well. And Brian talks about like her improv skills too.
Yes.
And what you're saying about being small, and then based on all the reviews about it, I felt like if this opened at Sundance, like everyone would be raving about it,
Exactly. I think that's exactly right. And that's why I was like I said, like, I just think the way this is shaping out this year, like so many of these movies have maybe like not popped. I think Danielle Deadwyler could easily get in because I think it's a strong narrative. She's obviously on the come up from like having great performances in specifically Station 11, which I just loved her in. She was so good. And Till seemingly is like really strong. At least I talked to a couple of people who saw it and they were like, it's great and she's awesome in it. So like I could definitely see that happening. But I just thought I was just like, Jennifer Lawrence is so famous and people really do, I think, in the industry like her. And like we said, like last year, I don't think she would have got nominated, but she was definitely like not a joke consideration for Don't Look Up. And to me, I'm like, if she's actually like really good in this movie, I don't think the fact that it's small will like hurt it. And especially because it's going to be on Apple, like I would argue that more people are going to watch Causeway than see The Whale, because it's like, it's going to be on Apple. People can just watch it. They're going to be like flipping around on a Friday night and be like, oh, let's watch Causeway. Even if they don't love it, like they're going to see it.
Well, I mean, I think like Apple will push it, but if you're just talking about like regular people who
I'm talking about app. I think Apple will push it and I think people will see it like people who are not going to screens will see it and then like maybe also get invited to stuff. I think they're just going to push it. And I have spoiler alert, I'll have we'll mention Brian Tyree Henry again as well because I think he could be due.
Yeah, I think she'll also need like a lot of like precursor support too,
right?
Because I can't really, even though she's like super famous, the former winner and everything, like I don't know if she could just pop up on nomination morning.
No, yeah. Like I think she would need like some critical support, which she actually might get based on the reviews. I could see like a group or like a pretty significant group maybe coming to bat for her. Two people one person we didn't mention was Ana de Armas for Blonde. I almost put her in. It seems like everybody is like at least appreciative of her performance, but it doesn't feel like it has enough. It's not like, I think the comp is like Kristen Stewart and Spencer, but I think the movie is more polarizing and people are more like, good for you, rather than like, let's give her a nomination. That's my sense.
Honestly, I haven't really thought about her.
Yeah. I mean,
like it's just like, yeah, like, I mean, yeah, the Spencer comparison, like in terms of like the vibe of the film, yes. But yeah, no, it was also kind of like no one, even before the film premiered, was kind of like expecting a nomination for her like they were for Kristen Stewart. Right. So, and yeah, I don't know if, I mean, like it'll be like cool if she got it. I don't know if for there in the same way that they were for Kristen either.
Right. Supporting actor Joyce. Mine has changed a little. In August, I had Paul Dano for Fabelmans, Judd Hirsch for Fabelmans, Zen McGrath for The Sun, Brad Pitt for Babylon, and Michael Ward for Empire of Light. And now I have Judd Hirsch, Paul Dano for The Fabelmans, Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Brad Pitt for Babylon, and Ki Hye Kwan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I put him back in.
Okay, is that it?
That's it. I'm Judd Hirsch winning. So I was like, at the time I was convinced that Paul Dano would win. But I, based on the response to Fabelmans and the fact that this category also feels like, if not weak, I'd say not without, there's no clear front runner here. I think like there's placeholder, like Dano is the placeholder front runner. And I'm sure, I feel like he'll get nominated, but I do wonder if Judd Hirsch could just win with his one scene that people like were doing a standing ovation for based on the tweets in Toronto. And I think the narrative of him and having him be an industry veteran will go a long way. And maybe he's like the Alan Arkin of this season, even though he's in less of the movie. So it would be like a Beatrice Straight type win, but I think he could win.
Okay, so in August I had Dano, Brendan Gleeson, Zen McGrath, Brad Pitt, and Ki Hye Kwan. And again, not a lot of changes.
Okay.
So now I have Dano, Gleeson, Judd Hirsch, Pitt, and Kwan. So.
Okay. And you think Gleeson will win?
I still have Ki Hye Kwan in first. I'm unsure of who is winning in Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. I'm pretty confident in the lady in Best Actress and Supporting Actress.
Yes,
But
it seems a little.
and then who knows?
Right.
Yeah, so double, as we talked about before, supporting actor is now all about double noms after going through 26 years with no double noms from one film. So yeah, double Fabelmans here with Paul Dano and Judd Hirsch.
Right.
And yeah, like Judd does have the more raves than Paul, so I feel like Paul will be like the Jesse Plemons coattail.
It does feel that way because he seemingly is the much more subtle performance because he has to play like a lot of internalized strife and struggle, and that necessarily is not like a let's win an Oscar for that because it's not subtle. It's the Oscars love. I feel like especially in the supporting category, maybe a little more broad.
And yeah, so then I have Brendan in supporting, who you have in lead.
Right.
And
if I was gonna switch and put him in lead, put him in supporting, I would remove Brian Tyree Henry. But the reason I put Brian Tyree Henry in is I feel like, God, people love him and he's an incredible actor. And I think people are waiting for him to have a film performance that gets him like the recognition that maybe he deserves. And so this could be it. And even if I would give him a better shot of getting nominated than Jennifer Lawrence, honestly. And again, I think there's a really strong narrative there in an open year. Why not? I also like this has no bearing on it, but I'm like, he was in one of the most popular movies of the year as Bullet Train. So people are like primed to like, they're aware of it. You know what I mean? Like as a movie star, he's like on again.
You just want the Bullet Train reunion.
I love the Bullet Train reunion. Bullet Train ruled. It's like a Bullet Train is better than a lot of these movies I saw. I tell you, right? I got to be honest, but I just think he would be a great story. And I don't think he would have gotten in for like Beale Street, but it's like he was so good in Beale Street for that one scene that you could argue like it's not a makeup nomination, but I'm like, he definitely is like not an unfamiliar face, I think, to some of these people.
No, like I agree that he feels like someone who people are just kind of, I just opened something on my phone. Okay. Someone who people are just kind of waiting to have the right role and the right film to nominate. I don't know if Causeway is the film.
Right. Who knows?
Like it sounds like he has the performance because yeah, like he did get more raves than Jennifer did. So yeah, I think it just like things will have to work out for the film like Coda style, basically. I'm not saying Causeway is going to win Best Picture, but it'll have to be like that.
I think, and I'm wondering if maybe I'm putting too much stock in Apple, but if you think about Apple right now, it's like they have Causeway and I don't know, like Flowers of the Moon is not coming out this year, right? And maybe Emancipation is, but who knows, right? Like that's their other big one. It has not been talked about in weeks. Are you going to
predict Will Smith?
No, I'm not going to predict Will Smith. But it hasn't been talked about weeks and maybe isn't even coming out this year. And so then you're left with like, what are they going to put what eggs are they going to put in their basket? And it's like, well, Causeway. And like, even if the movie is like small, you have one of the biggest movie stars in the world and like an incredibly popular actor who people like seemingly like. So I think that they could actually make a really strong campaign for him. And it could be one of those movies that it's like, the movie's fine, but the performances are great and they get in. I don't know.
I know, but I'll also remind you that, these are the same people who just checked off J.K. Simmons this year. So
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Who can forget J.K. Simmons?
Not me, it's 10-15 somewhere.
I mean, great performance, but holy cow. Supporting actress Joyce, the nominees I had in August, my predictions were Jessie Buckley for Women Talking, Stephanie Sue for Everything Everywhere, Vanessa Kirby for The Sun, Sadie Sink for The Whale, and Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans. Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans. And now, having seen stuff, I have Kerry Condon, Hong Chow for The Whale, Kerry Condon for Banshees of Inisherin, Claire Foy for Women Talking, Lashana Lynch for Women King, and Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans. I was torn on Jessie Buckley and Claire Foy. So having seen the movie, they're both incredible. And I thought Claire Foy was like unbelievably good. She was actually my favorite part of the whole movie. I don't know if she could get in, but I'm kind of like putting her in because I want to. And Jessie Buckley is also incredible, but I wonder if the movie could support 2 supporting actress nominees when it's maybe not going to be as strong as like I thought before I saw it, even though I think it's better than I expected, as strange as that might be. Kerry Condon had great reviews for Banshees of Inisherin, feels like a discovery that people really like. Hong Chow and the Whale, I just couldn't figure out which of these actresses is going to come along with Brendan Fraser. So Sadie Sink, I love my Stranger Things, but based on like the reviews, everyone like really like was raving about Hong Chow.
The reviews were not kind to Sadie Sink.
So I feel like Hong Chow will maybe get dragged along for the ride and like has a role in the menu this year as well. And like, again, I think people really like her. Maybe she was like, if Downsizing was a little more well received, maybe she would have gotten in for that, because I think people like her. Lashana Lynch, God knows, people love her in this Woman King, Joyce. I have not seen it yet, so I'm like, but people were like very excited about her performance.
You're just all in on the Woman King now.
I am kind of.
You were back in March too.
I was. I mean, like, who would she be like for like? I don't know. I'm just like, people really liked her performance. Like, I guess I seemingly will take a shot in the dark there. That could change. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, that's what I got basically. What about you?
So in August, I had Jessie Buckley, Stephanie Sue for Everything Everywhere, Vanessa Kirby for The Sun, Samantha Morton for She's That, and Michelle Williams. This one I did do a lot of changes too. So I still have Jessie. I have Hong Chow and Carrie Condon. I'm a Better Call Saul stan, so I gotta support a Better Call Saul actor getting an Oscar nomination. I have Nina Haas for Tar.
Wow, okay.
And Michelle. So I only kept 2 here, basically.
So we have actually almost like the same group. So I went with Foy over Buckley. I think one of them will get in for sure.
I did, because I did update after we recorded, or like in between our episodes, I guess. But then after Women Talking premiered, I was like, I don't know. I like the same thing with you. Like, I don't know if it'll get double noms, even though this is the category that's friendliest to double noms.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like, both Claire and Jessie had the best notices. And then I just kept Jessie because she was just nominated.
So I almost kept Jessie because she was just nominated. It feels like that's a no-brainer, right? They're just going to go back to the well, and she's so good. I put Foy in because I think the character is more. So I think if you're watching, well, she definitely is a little bit. Well, they're both Beatty moments, but I do think if you're watching the movie, that Claire Foy in the movie is expressing the rage that I think people would feel most comfortable agreeing with. She is absolutely livid that this has happened, which I think is
which is why, like, I think that's why she's Beattier. So
and Buckley has to have the turn in her character where she kind of starts out a little more resigned and like angry and bitter, and like comes around a little to the thinking of like, let's leave, basically. Or no, I don't think you can spoil this movie, honestly, because it's just like them talking. But I do think that Foy will have, I think the audience when they leave the movie is going to be like, wow, Claire Foy, like feel that Claire Foy was like, they feel seen by Claire Foy in the performance. I think that kind of thing. So I think like she will hope, like, it's just, she's so good in it. I was like very impressed with her. And that's why I put her in over Buckley. But if Buckley got in, I would not be shocked at all. So you have Nina Haas. I've seen Tar, and I would say I'd be curious to see what, I mean, maybe it can happen. They're certainly pushing Nina Haas, but I don't know if she's not in it a ton, I would say.
I mean, like, who cares? So,
well, I guess
no, I have her in there as the Cate Blanchett coattail.
Sure.
Because she always has a coattail nominee when she wins. When she won for The Aviator, she had a 2 co-stars. Leo coattailed her. Okay. And Alan Alda. And then Blue Jasmine, when she dominated, it was Sally Hawkins.
Yep.
So I'm just going for the Cate coattail.
So here. I would say then, if you're thinking of that, and I guess we'll see, I think Nomi Merlant, who is the actress in Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
I thought about her, but again, I think it's like Nina seems to be the one that they're pushing.
They are, and I think they're both in it a comparable amount. And obviously she has the more explosive relationship with Kate because they're married in the movie. But I would say, like, if on Oscar morning this does come true, I could easily see Nomi Merlant getting in, especially with like the international flavor of the Academy being like more leaning towards that. I don't know. Nina Haas obviously too, but I don't know. I would like, I I was team Nomi Merlant coming out of the movie. I thought she was like amazing. She's
I
so
believe
good
you're
in
not
it.
predicting her then.
I'm not predicting either of them, no, because I just don't think it feels to me, it felt like one of those things where it was like, if there was one character, they would easily get in, but it's like the movie kind of like splits a little bit between how much they're in it. They're not really comparable characters, but
Why
like,
not both?
no, I don't think the movie could support both. I don't think it can. So, I just don't. So that's not bad though. Anything else here, Joyce? So we both dropped Stephanie Sue. I felt like she was more of a placeholder for me. I love her in the movie. She's actually my favorite part of Everything Everywhere, but I don't think she'll get in.
I dropped her. I mean, I could still like sort of see her again because I think she is like a fan favorite. But I don't know, like Carrie has like great noses too. And yeah, I think this is getting kind of crowded. So because like Stephanie would also be a coattail, basically.
Yes. I thought that, so I actually think, like we were talking here, like best actress and best supporting actress are so much more crowded than best actor and supporting actor. And so like, I think that is going to squeeze out, like Stephanie Sue and Ke Kwan, I feel like are comparable to me, but I think he's almost much more of a lock for nomination than she is.
Like he can win because that category is so open.
Correct. And like she might
and
even get,
she has to deal with like Michelle Williams, who was like probably so cool thing. We could have just Michelle's and Brendan's winning the 4 categories.
wow, that's crazy.
Just Team Michelle and Team Brendan all the way. So I hope someone is predicting that to happen.
So Michelle Williams would like sweep, is the seeming sweeper of this season, I would say already.
Yeah, well, as we were talking about like the Fabelman reviews, like everyone was it was like confirmation that like right. She was gonna win. And like it's finally her time. This will be her 5th nomination.
It's her time. This is it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it came true finally next year, yeah.
And Spielberg getting back-to-back supporting actress winners.
Best supporting actress. Like he still needs the actress win because he has the other 3 already. And still, yet again, still crazy that he went like over 40 years not directing a single acting Oscar winner until BDL. And then now he might get 4 within a decade.
So I have actually 2 Fabelmans actors winning. Then I have Judd Hirsch and Michelle Williams. I think could eat.
I mean, then, yeah, sure, why
could
not?
Win. And then I have
Judd Hirsch also, a legend. He was nominated for Ordinary People. So what if he wins for another Best Picture winner? So
he could.
Yeah.
I have Fabelman still in first, but I would say, like you said, I don't think nothing had happened at TIFF surprised. I guess it surprised me a little bit because I think if it was, like I said, I think if it was not great, people would have destroyed it. So the fact that it like got good reviews to great reviews means it's probably really good. And I look forward to seeing it outside of the buzz of these, the festival highs.
Yeah, I think they felt like very confident in it that it wouldn't tank. Because then immediately the next day, it was like, here's the trailer, guys.
Yes.
And then I immediately started seeing ads on TV for the trailer. That was like, watch the trailer now.
So if I was ranking these right now, this is crazy, but here's what I have. I have Fabelman's first. I'd have Top Gun and Everything Everywhere second and third. And then sight unseen, I have Babylon fourth and Banshees of Inisherin fifth. I think Banshees could do really well because I think it's going to get a screenplay, at least 2 or 3 acting nominations, could get director. I know you have Martin director. I think it's going to be very well received. But I do think that Top Gun and Everything Everywhere are like legitimate threats to win Best Picture if Fabelmans doesn't go wire to wire, presuming it's the favorite right now. Like, that's nuts, but I really think it could happen.
I mean, for the nomination, I would say like they're pretty safe right now. I don't
like what would win. Like, what do you think is going to win? Like Fabelmans? I mean, it's stupid.
I still have Fabelmans first. So my top 5 are Fabelmans, Everything Everywhere, Tar, Banshees, and Women Talking.
Okay.
So I have like my popular movies in the bottom.
Okay.
I just like put them there, and then I have Bardo in 10th, and then I have Babylon in 6th, just because it's, no one has seen it. Like, we got the trailer yesterday.
So
it was like unhinged.
The trailer's unhinged.
We haven't even talked about it yet.
No, we can talk about that now. I mean, the trailer, like, I love Damien Chazelle. I love La La Land. I think it's a great movie. I don't care if that's like, it's not cool anymore to like it, whatever. Movie freaking rules.
I am not a La La Land person.
First Man, I think, is really good as well. I know people prefer that a lot to La La Land. I think it's great also. I'm so psyched for Babylon. It looks like Boogie Nights and Wolf of Wall Street just put together. But it looked very much like a movie that I think people will look forward to tearing down online. Like, cannot wait. It feels like the David O. Russell movie that's not Amsterdam, and that people will love to destroy. You know, like American Hustle style.
It has a very American Hustle feel to it, and the trailer was cut in a way to, I mean, like, this is the whole purpose of marketing, obviously, but it was clearly cut in a way to like maximize accessibility and to sell the movie as this like debaucherous thing, right? Like a debaucherous good time. Like, look at this, like Margot Robbie like snorting cocaine, like the opening frames, you know. And yeah, I know, like, you know, a lot of people took issue with the anachronisms.
So I saw that too, and I'm like, people need to log off. That would be my big thing, is just log off. I saw somebody tweeting about that, and I actually firmly muted them because I was just like, why is this? Who cares? Also, like, I guess, is it an anachronism that people are blowing lines like that in 1920s? I actually don't know, Joyce. I have no idea.
Well, I don't think they were saying fuck yeah in 1920. No,
I don't know.
So like the thing is, I don't mind anachronisms if they make sense for what you're trying to do, right? Like that's like the style you're going for. And I think the thing is, like, we don't really know anything about this movie. You know, like at some point it was like Margot Robbie's playing like Clairvaux, you know, so it's like they're all playing like you know, like everyone thought they were playing real people. And yeah, like it's still like there are a lot of question marks about it still, and like I know the original script is online, and like we don't know how much that's changed either. And like it looks great, so it's gonna clean up below the line, like production design and stuff.
I mean, it's definitely, to me, it's like, wait, it's definitely the movie that will be the Oscar villain. There will be like a bunch of Vulture articles about how much
like film Twitter will love to tear it down.
Like that to me is like, and I will love the movie. I'm like already like, unless it's like, I'm like already way in the tank for this. I love the guy. I love everything about this movie. It looks awesome. But I'm like,
it feels like something. So like we haven't done like screenplays yet. So like I actually don't have it in Screenplay, just because I think like it, unlike last year, original screenplay is crowded this year. So
do you want to, I mean, we never did this, but do you want to do like, I mean, like I have picks for that if you want to do original.
I mean, yeah, we could do it.
So I have Fabelmans, Banshees, Everything Everywhere, Tar, and I do have Babylon, but I have it in fifth, and I'm not convinced it'll get in.
No, so I have Fabelmans, Everything Everywhere, Tar, Banshees, and Triangle of Sadness.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I took it out because like that's, so the thing with like Damien to me is like he's one of those auteurs that's just he's better at like directing than he is at writing, basically, like what it comes down to. So I haven't getting into director still, because I think it's still kind of like a technical achievement, and they might respond to that, and like especially if the film does well. So, and like again, like sight unseen, like his scripts are not generally the strongest aspects of his films, which is why it was also hilarious to me when people were predicting La La Land to win screenplay. Right.
I love La La Land. I think its script is actually good on that, but I don't disagree. And I think anytime you have like a massive, like long movie like this, it's going to be hard to like, I don't know. It just seems tough.
I mean, like he could easily get in if the film just like really takes off. So, but like I don't have it right now.
I thought Triangle of Sadness. I actually thought for original would be James Gray for Armageddon Time. I think we didn't really talk about it. You laugh. It's actually a great movie, and I think
I'm not laughing at the movie. I'm just laughing at you predictably standing the movie, and you're gonna see it again in like 2 weeks.
New York Film Festival. I think it's like really good, and I think so. James Gray is a filmmaker that I think film Twitter really loves, and like there is affection for him in the industry, but obviously is not really popped from an Oscar standpoint. And I wonder if Focus really pushes hard, they could get him in an original screenplay nominee as this, and like that would be its like lone nomination. But I'm not sure if there's enough affection for him. The movie is really good. Actually, Jeremy Strong is incredible, and Anthony Hopkins is incredible. and I could argue they both could get in, but I feel like Fabelmans will like they're basically mirror images of seemingly Judd Hirsch and Paul Dano, and I just don't think that there's enough room for like those two and Judd Hirsch and Paul Dano. So, but I do have Babylon in fifth, but I'm not convinced they will make it in. I agree, it's not a strong original screenplay choice. And then I have Fabelman's winning, but I'm like, I think Banshees might win.
Yeah, I think like I was like, this could be just another loss for Tony Kushner.
That's what I was like. I just put
because they co-wrote it.
Yes.
But maybe Tony will get in this year.
Yes, he will. I think he will.
Yeah.
But
and
adapted.
I have Woman Talking, like I said before,
Sure.
winning. I have Glass Onion getting in, so another one for Rian Johnson. The Whale, White Noise, and She Said.
Okay, so I have those. I have Women Talking, The Whale, and Glass Onion as well, and then I have Living and Close. So Close is we didn't.
I thought about those two as well. Actually, I had Living in there, and then I took it out.
I think Living will get in. It's like, again, I think I'm like bullish on Living, but I do think Sony can get like Best Picture, Best Screenplay, adapted screenplay, Bill Nye nominations, and then like maybe score or like costumes, and the supporting actress will not get in probably. But if we're looking for a coattail, Amy Lou Wood is the actress, and she's like, I'd never seen her before. I think she's on Sex Education, which I do not watch, but I was absolutely smitten by her performance. She's so charming and like really good. And she has a great scene with Bill Nye, a couple of them that are just like kind of blew me away. And she like, they're his best scenes. So I feel like that could help. I mean, it's like a total long shot, but I'm like, maybe like a BAFTA, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it would not surprise me to see her show up somewhere this season, especially because he's so good. And I think he's going to do really well. And then Close, I think A24 was at Cannes, and I did not see it at Telluride. It was one of the ones I missed. But from what I've heard, like people were like weeping, like another Weeping in the Aisles movie, Joyce. And I feel like it could be like the, what was that movie last year that everyone loved? Worst Person in the World type style nomination for that year. So I don't know. But
I am shocked that you don't have Top Gun Maverick in here.
You know what? It's a great script, but it would never get it. I'll tell you another one I thought of that I could see. I just think the movie is too, what's the word? Horribly graphic, but is Bones and All, Luca Guadagnino movie that I saw at Telluride, is a beautiful movie, and then has some of the most grotesque imagery I've ever seen in a movie.
There's a lot of Academy members who are not going to sit through that movie.
People were like, no way, and people were walking out in droves, not because it's bad, but because they couldn't actually seemingly watch what was going on screen.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, a lot of queasy people who can't.
Yeah, it's definitely you hear it's a movie about cannibals and you're like, I could do that, and then you watch it and it's like, holy shit, this is unbelievably graphic. And that said, it's probably my favorite movie of his. I'm not the biggest Luca Guadagnino fan, but I'm like, it was absolutely my favorite movie of his, and I think Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell especially are amazing in it, and the script is really interesting and good, and I think you could argue will maybe get up like a couple of critical notices, but I don't think it would make it in. But I thought of putting that in as well. But I think, I don't know. I think Living and Close maybe will round it out. And then I have Women Talking.
I just kind of tossed White Noise and She Said.
Yeah. In there. And then I have Women Talking winning here, when we talked about. It feels like that is where the Sarah Polley win will come from. And I think people will really, really like it. I don't know. We'll see. I guess that's it, Joyce. I don't know. We'll see. So Babylon, an early runner for the most villainous movie of the year, I would say.
And also like the most trailer.
Most like villainous.
The best trailer is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, obviously.
I mean, I'm so excited for Babylon. I can't even tell you. I'm like, this is like, I just cannot wait to see it.
It's just like
so psyched.
Like that. I don't know. Like I saw a lot of takes, hot and cold, on the trailer, and it was just like, I don't know, like that's just it was sort of like what I expected, because if that is not the tone of the movie, which I don't think it's completely accurate, but like I understand why it's cut that way.
Well, that was one of the things I was like, part of the reason why I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like it does look very more mainstream maybe than I expected.
Yeah, but I think like they're doing that because they want to sell this seemingly period film, and it doesn't really tell you the plot either in the trailer.
Right.
You know,
I saw one person. This is my friend Katie Rich with award maybe Brainworms, but she was like Jean Smart supporting actress from like the 1 second shot of Jean Smart in the trailer.
And
I was
then
like,
they also released character posters this week. So based on that one shot, the one frame of her in the trailer and her character poster.
I mean, I guess
I think I had her in March.
You did, and I'm like, I guess if the performance, like, again, these categories, I think supporting actress is a little deeper than supporting actor. But I'm like, if the performance is there, I could easily see her getting like a narrative boost, you know. From
I know, and I think some people were also just kind of under in the afterglow of the Emmys too, since she just won again on Monday. So it's like, and yeah, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. So
I would also say I don't feel supremely confident about Brad for it, but I was like, he does look like he's got like a
he's like all over the trailer. Diego Calva is the lead, yes. But I mean, he's in the trailer more than Jean Smart, but like Brad and Margot are like the most featured.
Right. I mean, the comp,
but like, you know, they're the movie stars. So you're
right.
like, you're
I mean, the comp to me was like Boogie Nights, and Margot is playing like Julianne Moore, and Diego Calva is playing like Heather Graham or Mark Wahlberg, basically.
Yeah, I don't. So yeah, I can't decide like how well that would do acting wise. So I still just have like Margot and Brad in there.
I guess. So. I mean, so Fabelmans I still have as the front runner. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see like what could end up winning. I don't know. I mean, like we'll see. I guess.
I think like it's also the sense like not just because it's like the front runner, but it's like is this this like, you know, love letter to cinema and his like movie memoir basically gonna win Best Picture. Like I think some people feel like this is not quote unquote like big enough.
Right. That's the thing. But I'm like, I wonder like, based on like
what else is there?
Well, but also based on what we were saying, like this year is definitely about like movies. We love movies, right? Like we love movies is like the unofficial theme of this year in the Oscars. And I wonder if like they'll pick like the we love movies movie of this group would be Fabelmans. And like I wonder if that is like the, you know, we're the Oscars this year, I think is gonna a lot of like I feel like the ceremony or next year will be like a lot of like repairing what was damaged at the this year's Oscars, and it will be more of like we love our filmmakers, we love the films, we love the people nominated, we love movies.
I hope so, but they don't really learn the right lessons.
I don't think they'll learn the right lessons, but I do think they're going to try very hard to do that, and I wonder if Fabelmans will get like the boost because of that. I guess we'll see, and we'll get to see.
Are they going to bring back themes like Gil Cates?
They actually should.
We love movies.
I don't know. Joyce, that's it. So I guess we'll be back next week. We could like dig into other stuff, but this was like another broad overview of it all. Wow.
I know. I don't think we need to rehash all of our previous nominations next week. Now that we're going to do this weekly once again. So.
No, yeah, I think we'll be all right. But all right, Joyce, this was fun. I'll talk to you later.